Hello, welcome back to my channel. Deconstructing narcissism. I apologize there. So, it's been a while since I've made any kind of video on this channel. I think I got only a few subscribers, so I'm not expecting anything. I'm not really expecting much of this. But for those who do watch me, I'm very thankful. But anyway, I wanted to, I think the title of this video I'm going to call, it's going to be talking about universal health care. It's going to be talking about narcissistic bosses. It's going to be talking about the struggles of trying to adapt and overcome challenges after many years of narcissistic abuse at the hands of my parents. Now, you may not have had narcissistic parents, but you may have had a narcissistic spouse or wife or husband or whatever that you've had to fucking deal with your whole life. And now you're struggling. You're sitting here. You maybe you finally escaped. Maybe you're still there. Maybe you're struggling to adapt into this this shithole world we live in now, with the pandemic going on and the war in Ukraine and fucking inflation and all this other bullshit that we have to deal with thanks to the people in charge in the government that make decisions in the US or wherever else you're at. But I just wanted to rant today about how fucking hard it is to adapt and overcome all these challenges in a society that already makes us mentally ill. In this capitalistic society we live in that already makes us mentally ill, that exploits people and it turns them into a profit at every single turn. Everybody's looking at everybody else as a fucking walking dollar sign to make profit from. But yeah, it's just been, I'm ranting, it's been a really shitty day. I have a fucking shit ass fucking boss who has zero self-awareness or zero conscience whatsoever, who swears at all their employees and treats us like dog shit at every possible turn. And it's really great. I'm really happy that I get to deal with an abusive boss every day and walk into work and he's fucking yelling and screaming and this and that and everything. It's just wonderful. Apparently he was supposed to retire from this company that I'm working at a few months ago, but the HR said that he couldn't retire or whatever. Now he's taking the piss out on everybody else for it. So everybody gets to suffer because he wasn't able to retire when he wanted to retire. So yeah, everybody's suffering because of it, but everybody just fucking puts up with it. But I'm not fucking putting up with it. I tell it like it is, and I don't care. But it's really, I just want to talk about how hard it is to deal with jobs and bills and this and that when you were, especially if you were raised as if you were parentified or if you were infantilized by these fucking narcissistic baby boomer fucking scumbags all your life. You have to figure out you are worlds apart from everybody else who grew up in a normal, healthy, happy family. You are worlds apart. You have to figure out how to clean. You have to figure out how to cook. You have to figure out how to make recipes. You have to figure out how to have a social life. You have to figure out how to budget. You have to figure out this. You have to figure out that. And it's just fucking, it gets so overwhelming. It's mind blowing what these people do to you. They fuck up your whole life. Your whole life gets fucked up by these people, and they suffer no repercussions from it whatsoever. They walk away hands free after fucking putting all their bullshit on you for years on end, and there's nothing you can do about it because there's nothing you can do to prove all the years of bullshit and emotional abuse that you went through, and physical abuse maybe, because by the time you escape, or maybe you're still living there, but by then it's way too late because it already happened. So you're left to deal with all these scars and all this emotional bullshit, all these fucking PTSD and fucking dissociation and all this other bullshit that you might have from these fuckers. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't take them to court unless you have a mountain of evidence, and even that'll take years of your time and money and effort to prove any kind of abuse that happened within your household, or maybe your wife's or your husband's household or whatever. But there's just nothing you can do about it. You have to suffer all this bullshit from these people. And now like I said, you may live alone, you may still be with your abuser, but now you have to figure out a way to deal with all your problems caused by these fucking people, and find a way to get a decent bill. Thankfully, I still have a decent paying job, but I'm struggling to focus at work. I'm struggling to make it on time to work. And that's due to all the emotional abuse, all the gaslighting, all the things that my parents used to do to me, and all the horrible traumatic experiences that I had growing up for 26 years living in that goddamn hellhole until I finally managed to escape. But the financial abuse, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse has literally taken its toll on me. And then you're like I said, you're left with all the damage. There's nothing you can do. You gotta find a therapist, you gotta find therapists, you gotta find psychologists, you gotta find fucking psychiatrists, you gotta find these people. Well, that's even if you have the money, because that brings me to the other topic that I wanted to discuss, because here in America, there's no such thing as universal health care. So we can't fucking just go to the doctor and get help when we need it. No, because that requires money and more money and more money, and then you're pissing away more money for fucking mental health. You're spending all your money on your mental health because you're fucking whoever, maybe your spouse, husband, whoever fucked you up so bad. They're suffering no repercussions from it. They're not going to pay. Your abuser's not going to pay for it, obviously. Most of the time, they don't even think they're an abuser in the first place. So now you're stuck, left in a broken mess. You're left to pick up all the pieces of the bullshit that you went through from your abusers. At the same time, leading a normal social life, going to a job, focusing on a job, paying your bills, making sure your rent's paid on time, taking care of your car, managing your car, all this other shit. And that's if you're lucky enough to find a good enough paying job to support you, And on the top of that, you got inflation, all this other bullshit you have to worry about, right? And it's just a nightmare, man. It's just a nightmare. These last 2 years during the pandemic, I had barely had energy to do anything. The first year I got out of that hellhole house with my parents, I literally had I could barely get off the goddamn fucking sofa to get ready for work. I was so exhausted. I still am exhausted. But the first year I spent just sleeping and recovering from all the abuse that I had to go through, on top of being homeless and having to go to a mental hospital forced against my will, not because I was even hurting myself, but because I was forced to go, because they decided that I wasn't mentally well enough to go to work. So I was forced to go into this mental hospital and fucking, experience more. You know how mental hospitals in the US are fucking horrible. Mental hospitals in the US are just like prisons. They're not there to help a person reintegrate themselves into society. They're there to make profit off of you, again, because like I said, we live in a greedy fucking world where everybody's looking at everybody else like a walking fucking dollar sign to exploit and make money from and gain profit from. So the mental hospitals here in the US, well, you go into one, you're fucked up even more. You're even more fucked up than you were when you fucking went into it. Now you came out and you're even more fucked up afterward. So it's nuts, man. If we had universal health care in the US, there would be a lot less fucking people dying, a lot less fucking people mentally ill. We would have people being able to get their mental health and their physical health and needs met if we had universal health care. And yes, You'd have to pay more in taxes, but you know what? At the end of the day, you have a happier, healthier society, and I honestly 100% believe that. But no, we have people, we have veterans, we have people dying in the street, we have fucking mentally ill people that are too mentally ill to work, all because of this capitalist society we live in, that where everything is money. Healthcare costs way too much. Fucking the last time I was seeing a psychologist or a therapist or whatever, I was paying, I think it was a psychologist, I was paying her $100 and all she could do was she could nod her head the whole time. Oh, yep, I totally understand your situation. Yep, that sounds bad. Oh, how horrible, this and that. What she did, I had like one session with her. I said, you know what, you're not worth another session. Not for $100 an hour. You didn't say there was no intuition with her. There was no, there was nothing. She had no opinions on anything. She didn't say a word the whole time. It was just like, nod my head the whole time. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And you pay these fucking people that get into health. You pay these fucking people $100 an hour. You sit in a fucking room with them, and they barely say anything. They have nothing to add. They have nothing of value to add to your conversation or to help you in any sort of way. These are the people you have to avoid, by the way. I mean, and like I said, this goes back to, even if you have the money for mental health care, you got to find someone who's not just in it for the money. You have to find somebody who actually went into the field for the right reasons and not just because they want the money. You have to find, or even if they're not in it for the money, you have to find somebody who's experienced enough, who can be able to help you with whatever situation you're going through, who knows what the fuck they're talking about. That's the problem too. These psychologists don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I was seeing one psychologist, excuse me, for narcissistic abuse, and she was like, yeah, I mean, I went into this field because it really interested me, but as far as trauma or actual experience with narcissistic abuse, I have none. If you find a psychologist and they say they have no experience with narcissistic abuse or anything, chances are they're not going to be able to help you, because if they have not experienced anything regarding narcissistic abuse, I mean, the most they could tell you is what they've learned off of textbook and in school. I mean, it's like, maybe it's not the best analogy, but it's like if you were trying to learn a language, right? And then I'm kind of going off topic, but it's like trying to learn a language, like trying to learn like French, and the teacher never speaks French in school. He only speaks English, and you're just reading like really old textbooks from how they used to speak French. And also, like I said, the teacher doesn't speak French. You don't practice speaking French or anything like that. And then you go out to France to try to speak to a French person, and it's a completely different language, because languages are always changing and always evolving, and they have their own set of rules and their own words and their slang that they like to use and this and that, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You have to find a psychologist who has had adverse effect, or who has experienced the same abuse, who has went through the same thing as you, because if not, all they have to read from is a textbook. They cannot point out if a person is narcissistic just by going to school, if they have zero trauma, if they've had zero experience with narcissistic individuals in their life. They cannot just go to school, read from a textbook, come out of that, and go into the field of psychology and help somebody who has experienced real, actual narcissistic abuse. It just doesn't work. And it's a shame, because those are the people, like you can usually tell a lot of the times the people that want to help you. But there are a lot of good psychologists with good intentions, but there are also psychologists with bad intentions, like I said. And it just sucks, because they could be book smart, right? But they haven't actually experienced it hands-on to know enough information on how to tell somebody how to actually deal with narcissistic abuse and just abuse in general. Like, they need to I honestly believe that real life experience should be acquired. It should be required. Like, they need to know what they need to have been through some kind of narcissistic abuse in order to fully understand it. If they go to school just to study it, just for the fuck of it, that's great, and I'm sure a lot of their intentions are good. But they're just not qualified enough to be able to help somebody get past narcissistic abuse, especially if they've been abused by a narcissist for years on end. It's just not, they're not qualified enough to help somebody with that. They need to have had like real life experiences and like with dealing with narcissistic individuals, and that's my honest belief. But I don't really know what this was. This is just a rant about today and about how hard it is to hold a job while you have, I haven't been diagnosed by a psychiatrist yet because of the pandemic. It's been so hard to get any kind of mental health whatsoever. And on top of that, they're not taking my insurance for some reason, which is Aetna. I'm not sure. They keep saying that they've had like, everybody I've been calling, they've been saying like they've had a whole bunch of problems with Aetna and this and that, and they only take Blue Cross and this other's insurance and fucking whatnot. But this is just a rant. Like, if we had universal health care, if we had a better system in place that takes care of our people in the US, then there would be a lot less people on the street. There would be a lot less people who are mentally ill, and yeah, it would just be a whole lot better for society as a whole, and I truly believe that. But anyway, I think I've ranted on too long enough. I think I've ranted on long enough. But yeah, if anybody has any comments they want to put down in the comment section, feel free to do so. If you feel the same, if you've been going through any experiences. And yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it at that, honestly. I don't really have anything else to say. Work was just horrible. And yeah. Anybody who does watch my channel, feel free to give it a like, comment down below, like I said, and I appreciate all your support. Alright, until next time, this has been Deconstructing Narcissism, and I will see you